Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for webinar 3. This one is focusing on the importance of the reception year. So I hope you've all had time to nip to the loo and grab some caffeine or whatever it is you need, and we'll talk through this next webinar. As before, hopefully it'll not be too long for you, but just give you the key things that you need to know from the writing framework. So if you don't know me, hi, I'm Katie Armstrong. I lead Flying High English Hub, and we're thinking about the writing framework, which was published back in July. So as we've reminded before, we know that this is non-statutory guidance, and it's been designed to articulate a common approach to teaching writing. We know the framework's rooted in evidence and existing good practice, and I'm really pleased today to think about the importance of the reception year with you and how the writing framework can support you in ensuring that your children get off to the best possible start. We know that the reception year is vitally important for ensuring that children feel included in the strong whole school writing culture that you'll be developing in your schools. It's the opportunity to support children to start to feel like writers and to build that community of writers that are beginning to experience the joy of communicating writing and communicating through writing, and making the links between reading, their thinking, and writing. Reception is a time when teachers should all be encouraging children to enjoy writing, to experience what it feels like to write, and for someone else to read your writing. So we're going to delve into that a little bit deeper this afternoon. So starting off with the why are we having a big focus on writing, particularly in reception? Well, we know that writing is a complex task, and the research by Myhill and Fisher tells us that writing requires the coordination of fine motor skills and cognitive skills. It reflects the social and cultural patterns of the writer's time and is also linguistically complex. I think we all know that writing is tricky for children, but let's start by sharing the data that highlights the need for us focusing really intently on the reception year. So from the graph you can see on the screen there, you can see that attainment at the end of the early years is lowest in writing. In 23-24, across the 17 early learning goals, the pattern remained very similar to 22-23, where gross motor skills had the highest percentage of children at the expected level, whilst writing had the lowest. That's a difference of 20 percentage points between gross motor skills and writing, and the children that are achieving those. In 2023-24, 71.4% of pupils achieved the writing early learning goal. But we know that once children fall behind, they tend to stay behind. Children who are behind in communication, language and literacy development at age 5 are less than half as likely to achieve a grade 4 or higher in GCSE English language. And for those of you as old as me, that's a pass. It's a C mark at a 4. So we want our children to be able to get that level and higher. So we need to make sure we put the groundwork in early. We also know that attainment in writing at the end of Key Stage 2 has dropped by 7 percentage points during the pandemic, and we've not yet recovered those pre-pandemic levels. And when we compare the attainment between reading, writing and maths, writing is always the lowest, and this has been the same since 2022. So we definitely need to do something about writing for our children. We know that strong foundations are key to that later success. So school leaders should understand the important role that reception plays in building the foundation for writing. These foundations support children throughout primary school and eventually will underpin their success in the end of Key Stage 2 tests and prepare them effectively for secondary education. The emphasis in reception, as we've mentioned in previous webinars, should be on building the foundations for success for our children. And that's transcription, which includes handwriting and phonics for spelling, and composition. This means that we need to keep things simple and do these simple things well. So we're not asking children to start writing at length until they are ready to do so. The writing framework also emphasises the importance of daily explicit teaching of handwriting and phonics for spelling so that children get that strong start. And the government's plan for change sets that milestone of 75% of children reaching a good level of development at the end of reception by 2028. And the writing early learning goal must be achieved in order to get that good level of development. So we definitely need to think about how we're going to improve that for lots of children. And later in the session, we'll talk more about the writing early learning goal and what the framework says about making judgments against it. Developing children's skills in communication and language is vital for success in writing, and the writing framework emphasises the importance of developing children's language and communication as well as their writing skills. We know that fostering a love of language at this early stage is absolutely key, and that shared reading, storytelling, learning and repetition of rhymes, poems and songs is so important. Techniques like call and response or back and forth talk, storytelling, rhymes and songs also help to foster a love of language in our children. There should be a focus on creating opportunities for and encouraging children to express their ideas, their interests and their opinions orally, for example through storytelling. These could be transcribed by the teacher if that's appropriate, so that the child experiences that feeling of sharing their ideas with others and can develop an understanding of the important link between thinking, talking and writing. In the early years, high quality interactions between adults and children make a huge difference. Identifying those children with poor speech, language and communication is absolutely vital, as they will need support from the start of reception. These children will benefit more from writing support if they receive the language development support at the same time. Adults' own language should provide a model for children, with the adults following the child's lead, narrating their play, and echoing and expanding on what the children say in complete sentences, and helping children to join in and repeat using call and response. This helps the children to develop their vocabulary and sentence structures that they will later use in writing. Guidance from the EEF and Development Matters support schools in improving these interactions and developing children's handwriting and language skills. Writing composition depends on language. It's good to talk. In Strong Foundations, published in 2024, Ofsted report that the most successful schools teach the two distinct parts of writing, oral composition and transcription, separately, particularly in the early stages. Writing composition depends on language, so children need plenty of opportunity to develop the ability to speak in sentences and to compose orally. If they can't say it, they're very unlikely to be able to write it down. Saying their ideas also supports children in editing and improving them before they put pencil to paper. As children in reception begin learning to form letters and to spell, most of their composition at this stage will be oral. Children need to be explicitly taught to compose orally and get sufficient practice at doing this. This oral rehearsal lays the foundation for writing sentences later on, and for punctuating them correctly with capital letters and full stops. Teachers should support children to make the links between talking and writing. And Ofsted's latest guidance reminds us not to rush this process. Children need plenty of high-quality opportunities to practice the basics. We want plenty of oral rehearsal, focusing on building those strong transcription skills, avoiding expecting children to attempt complex tasks too soon, and developing quality, not length. We should avoid introducing complex writing tasks too early or expecting extended pieces of writing before the children are ready. Instead, the focus should be on building strong transcription skills, letter formation and spelling, and oral composition. It's the quality of their writing that matters at this stage, not the quantity. Children need regular opportunities to share and build on their ideas. With sensitive questioning and strong language modelling from adults, they can build confidence in using a wide range of vocabulary and structures. This lays the groundwork for effective writing. And the other message from Ofsted is that not everything needs to be recorded in books. And I'm sure you'll all be there cheering about that one. We know that if the children are having those conversations and they're developing their muscles for handwriting, they're practicing that formation, they're building the skills to be ready for writing. So we don't have to have everything in books right now. Achieving automaticity is key. so handwriting instruction should begin early. We know that transcription, which is a handwriting and spelling, is a key part of the early learning goal for writing. Mastering transcription frees up children's minds to focus on the ideas that they want to express. And fluent handwriting is a significant predictor of positive writing outcomes. That's why we need to introduce explicit handwriting instruction early, alongside phonics. And note that on the slides there, in terms of early, we're thinking about term 1 of reception. This should be regular and consistent. Many schools teach handwriting daily to help the children develop that automatic, fluent letter formation that they need. When children first join reception, some might need some support with the physical skills required for writing. This includes developing control of their thumb, their wrist, and their shoulder muscles. Early handwriting lessons can include large-scale movement practice, such as writing in the air or tracing with their fingers, as well as learning how to hold a pencil and position their body correctly for writing. Alongside learning to read and write, the reception year provides plenty of opportunities for children to develop body strength and coordination, as well as fine motor skills that support them to meet the physical development early learning goals. Activities such as threading, playing with water, using tweezers, and cutting with scissors can also be beneficial for handwriting. Even a simple activity, such as encouraging children to pick up gravel stones, can reinforce their ability to use a tripod grip that's necessary for holding a pencil well. All children should continue to develop their gross motor skills outside of the handwriting lesson, with adults supporting them towards reaching the early learning goal for physical development, to support with the early stages of learning to write. Some children may need more intentional, intensive support alongside teaching writing to develop the fine motor skills that underpin writing. Setting children up for success in handwriting. Ofsted Strong Foundations report that in many schools, the reception and Year 1 curriculum do not sufficiently emphasise the need for pupils to learn how to hold a pencil comfortably and sit at a table to write. Weaknesses in letter formation and pen grip make it difficult for pupils to learn to join their handwriting and can be significantly harder to address at a later stage. The writing framework therefore emphasises the importance of making sure that from the start, children are taught consistent routines for handwriting that support a comfortable writing position and enable them to form letters legibly and develop fluency. It recommends teaching children how to hold and manoeuvre a pencil, position the body and the paper. The classroom setup should be carefully considered. The writing framework recommends seating pupils at a table for handwriting, as this will support them to hold their pencil and position themselves properly to write. With a proper height chair, their feet flat on the floor, their body a fist width from the table, their bottom to the back of their chair, and 2 hands to write with, one to hold the pencil and one to hold the paper still. We also need to think about the children's positions on the table. What you don't want is a left-handed person like me on the right hand side of a table with a right-handed person on the left. We're going to bump elbows. So just considering where you're putting your children. But what this doesn't mean is that your children will be sitting at a table for the rest of the day. That's not in the writing framework, and that's not the expectation. For handwriting, it's vital that children have their equipment ready. This means that the pencils are sharpened and ready to be written with, papers in the right position, and any equipment such as grip supports and finger markers are accessible and in place before we start. In the appendix of the writing framework, there are more examples about how to position the paper depending on whether you're left or right-handed and which way that should tilt. So if you haven't had a look at those, do have a little look. So make sure you've got your paper right for your children. It's also important that children have a really good view of the adult and what is being modelled. They need space to write and to be seated at that comfortable height for writing. Children need handwriting instruction in addition to phonics. You need to make sure that you're teaching both alongside each other. And the writing framework clarifies this expectation for the teaching of phonics and handwriting in reception. We need to make sure that both phonics and handwriting are taught consistently and systematically. The order in which we teach letter formation in handwriting is different from the order that letters are taught in phonics. That's because phonics programs are designed to help pupils read as many words as possible early on, while handwriting programs focus on grouping letters by similar shapes to support their correct formation. In phonics lessons, pupils learn to recognise and write letters, which helps embed their understanding of the shape of the grapheme and develop that grapheme-phoneme correspondence. This supports their reading, their spelling, and helps them to memorise the letter's shape. However, handwriting in phonics lessons alone is not enough. Pupils also need explicit handwriting instruction, even if their phonics program has a writing focus. This gives them focused practice allows us to observe their technique, spot any errors, and provide the support they need in the moment. In reception, we are supporting children to work towards the National Curriculum Programme of Study for Key Stage 1, which will require them to write from memory simple sentences that are dictated by the teacher. Writing dictated, not copied, dictated sentences provides an opportunity for children to practice the handwriting they've been taught. It can be particularly helpful for less confident writers, as it removes the additional demand of thinking of their own words to write down. It reduces their cognitive load and supports them to be successful at spelling at word or sentence level. Dictation should only contain words that include the GPCs and common exception words the children have been taught so far. By keeping these principles in mind, we can build strong foundations in both reading and writing. Every child needs explicit and regular writing instruction from the start. Don't leave anyone behind. We know that some children naturally gravitate towards physical play rather than sitting down to write. However, it's important that we don't interpret this as a lack of readiness or ability. All children need to be taught to write, so they're included and receive sufficient teaching and practice. This is vital so they're not left behind. Writing should be developed primarily through explicit teacher instruction, which will take the form of handwriting sessions, phonics, and dictation activities. This is all clearly outlined in the writing framework. However, adults should encourage children to apply their writing beyond the explicit teaching sessions and may demonstrate drawing and writing in play. They should provide children with opportunities and equipment so they can play at writing if and when they choose to. For example, pencil and paper can be available for writing, such as menu cards in role-play kitchens or labels for construction models. Remember, this is not instead of play, and the purpose of writing needs to be carefully considered, especially if the play is conducive to developing oral language. As children play at writing, adults should consider supporting children to hold their writing implement correctly as they write, if this is appropriate in the moment, though this should not interfere with the children's play. Some children will need encouragement to support instructed activities that help them to build the foundations for writing. This should be alongside writing instruction and not instead of it. Development Matters suggests including activities that support with the physical development needed for writing, as well as structured activities to support those that need more encouragement or support. Children who need the most support. Strong writing skills begin with high-quality teaching from day one. Every child deserves consistent, well-structured writing opportunities and lessons that build their confidence and ability in writing. No child should be left out of writing instruction, and you should be ambitious for every child, including those who have been identified as having special educational needs and disabilities. The writing framework emphasises the need for keep up and for children to be supported to progress in class. If a child finds an aspect of writing difficult, teachers need to observe and determine the exact nature of the difficulty, moving beyond diagnostic labels, and adapt teaching to respond to their strengths and their needs. Preempting writing difficulties before they occur is helpful. For example, if a child joins reception with speech, language, and communication needs, teachers should be alert to the effect that this might have on their writing development and respond appropriately. Regular success in writing builds motivation. Praise should be specific and linked to the progress children are making. Metacognitive strategies help pupils to reflect, to take ownership, and to improve, especially those facing disadvantage. For example, strategies might include children self-monitoring by checking their own letter formation and asking themselves, did I start in the right place? Or are my letters the right size? Deciding on a specific achievable goal, such as today I will focus on making my A round and closed, and thinking aloud to verbalise their thoughts as they write. For example, I need to start my B at the top and go down. Providing a language-rich environment and supporting children to develop spoken language and oral composition is especially vital for children who find the composition element of writing more difficult. Understanding how to make judgments against the early learning goal for writing. Earlier, we mentioned the government's plan for change, which sets a milestone of 75% of children reaching a good level of development at the end of reception by 2028. The writing framework has clarified the expectations for children to meet the good level of development for writing. It's therefore essential that staff are experts in making judgments about children's writing against the following criteria. Write recognisable letters, most of which are formed correctly. Spell words by identifying sounds in them and representing the sounds with a letter or letters. Write simple phrases and sentences that can be read by others. The writing framework provides clarification to schools to support you in making judgments against the writing early learning goal. What's important is that children can use their knowledge of the GPCs to write simple phrases and sentences that others can read. Children don't need to be writing extended pieces. To meet the early learning goals for writing, sentences and phrases can be transcribed from dictation rather than independently composed. Sentences and phrases can be simple rather than extended. Sentences and phrases must be readable but may contain some mistakes in letter formation. Sentences and phrases do not need to contain punctuation, including capital letters. Not all words need to be spelt correctly. Leaders should ensure a shared understanding of what good writing looks like in the reception year, and this needs to be underpinned with high expectations for all. Next steps for you. So if you haven't already, please do read section 2 of the writing framework, the importance of reception, to make sure that you understand the key messages about writing in reception. Understand the key messages and expectations over the next academic year. It has been set out really clearly in the writing framework that this academic year, 25-26, is used to get our heads round the framework and get plans in place. We're not expecting that schools have everything fixed in the next few weeks, so don't panic. Plan next steps into your trust or your school or your authority. Think about what your next steps need to be for your school and how you're going to get there, and get those action plans in place. The reception year is a national priority for the RISE teams. This means that all schools will receive support to improve reception teaching, with some schools being eligible for enhanced or more intensive offers. And if you have a look at the Giving Every Child the Best Start in Life document that's linked there, you'll learn more about these offers. We know that, and we've mentioned in previous webinars, that as English Hubs, we will be able to offer some support to reception for next academic year, for 26-27. We don't fully know what that will look like yet. We're waiting for details from the DFE, but as soon as we know, we will of course share that with you. In terms of FAQs, we've got a couple. Should our school be using a writing programme? We know from previous webinars, if you've joined me, that the message is that you don't have to buy into a published scheme. You need to think for your school what is an effective writing curriculum for you and your school community. We know that seeing its impact will take time, so schools should be spending time carefully evaluating their current provision to identify what areas of improvement there are, and using the audits that are within the writing framework can be really useful in helping you do that. If leaders do conclude a programme will be beneficial for certain aspects of the writing curriculum, schools should use the guidance provided in the framework to help them review programmes so they can be confident in their choice and their design. Some schools have developed their own programmes that they prefer, and that's absolutely fine. If they are successful with their own writing curriculum, there is no expectation that schools use a commercially produced programme. Do children have to sit at tables to write? We have touched on this already in this afternoon's webinar. The advice is that from the beginning, seating pupils at a table for handwriting will best support them to hold their pencil and position themselves properly to write. This doesn't mean that we're expecting children to be at a table for the rest of the day. We know how important play is in the reception year. And before any handwriting starts, we should have all the equipment ready. Pencils sharpened and ready on tables, pencil grips and finger markers in place if they're needed, paper on the table at a slant in the right direction, so slightly anti-clockwise for right-handers and clockwise for left-handers. And again, if you look in the appendix of the framework, it gives you an illustration of that. But we recommend that children are taught to use a stable writing position, which supports their forearm, wrist and hand when writing. The writing position should enable the arm to move freely and support the hand to make the tiny movements that are needed. And as we said earlier, sitting on a chair that's the right height so their feet are touching the floor and not dangling, making sure that the tummy is a fist width table. We're using our core to sit up straight and using both hands for writing, one to hold the pencil, one to hold the paper still. What if a child isn't ready to be taught to write? As we've explored already in this webinar, teachers should have high expectations for all children and be ambitious for everyone. We want all children to receive and be included in writing instruction. Leaders and teachers should aim to ensure that all pupils get the best start in writing from the very beginning. The writing framework does explain the importance of supporting all children to develop the physical skills that they need to write alongside the handwriting teaching, and identify the aspects that a child finds more difficult and adapting teaching to help them make progress. The writing framework provides guidance on supporting children who find writing more difficult, including those with developmental coordination disorder or dyspraxia. It's important to watch pupils as they write letters so they practice and develop the skills needed for correct letter formation. Should handwriting be taught cursive? Pupils need to learn how to form letters easily and legibly. Before beginning to join letters, we need to know how to form the shape of each letter correctly. We need to know what that starting point is, what that finishing point is, and go in the correct direction. We need to also make sure that the size is proportionate to the rest of the letters that we're writing and the letters that are in the same family. Some handwriting programs teach letters which join easily. However, the assessment criteria for the validation of phonics programs that was published in 2021 required the validated phonics programs to provide resources that support the teaching of lowercase and capital letters correctly with clear start and finish points. So children that are in schools that follow a DFE validated phonics program should not be taught to join letters at the beginning, at first, and to start every letter or to start every letter on the line. So we're looking for the start point of every letter for itself rather than starting every letter on the line and have that lead in. So all of the phonics programs that are validated do that. So they have the start point of the letter that we start from, and it makes sense if your writing program does the same. Instead of in handwriting, we start at the line and we have the lead in, and in phonics we do it differently. So making those two match really does reduce that difficulty for some children. If you do want more support around reception, like I said, hopefully as English Hub we'll have more details for you soon and what that would look like. But currently we can offer school support with developing early language, early reading and phonics, and reading for pleasure. Flying High English Hub is your most local one if you've joined onto this network today, but there are 34 of us around the country, so please do find the one that's easiest for you to access and see what you can do and how we can support you. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop recording, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free. If not, go and enjoy your evening, and I will see you all soon.